Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 29th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. While the 2000s debuted all kinds of artists and styles, I wanted to share one of my favorite projects from a rapper who was actually already a well-known and respected figure in the community way before the turn of the century. Even before the 90s came around, Masta Ace had already cemented himself in the culture through his involvement with the legendary Juice Crew. Founded by famed radio DJ Mr. Magic, the Juice Crew was comprised of some of the best and brightest to come out of New York in the mid to late 80s, including Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane, Biz Markie, MC Shan, Roxanne Shante, Tragedy Gaddafi, Craig G, and of course Masta Ace. They infamously would end up on the receiving end of BDP's The Bridge Is Over diss, which was in turn a response to MC Shan's The Bridge. However, the impetus for the diss wasn't really that song, it was due to Mr. Magic dissing BDP and calling them whack when they first tried to show him their work. But that's another story for another time, probably when I actually cover one of those BDP albums in depth. Back to Masta Ace, while he was technically one of the junior Juice Crew members at the time who were still trying to put their stamp on the game, Ace really turned heads with his classic verse on Marley Marl's The Symphony. Even amongst an intimidating lineup of Craig G, Cool G Rap, and Big Daddy Kane, a budding Masta Ace not only held his own, but he has what I've often seen considered the best verse on the entire posse cut. He would continue to prove himself as one of the most promising MCs from the largely Queensbridge-based collective. In the 90s, Ace would go on to form a super dope but slightly underrated crew called Masta Ace Incorporated, otherwise known as just the INC. He would recruit members such as Lord Digga, Paula Perry, Lachey, and the various members of the trio ICU Rock, which in turn was comprised of IC, Unique, and Rock Diesel. While both albums released under the INC are without a doubt classics, my personal favorite Ace-related project has to be his comeback album of sorts that he released in 2001, Disposable Arts. This is one of those LPs that's just insanely clean and well executed front to back. There's multiple aspects about this album that were pretty ahead of their time, but don't always get the due credit. For example, the school concept Masta Ace uses here isn't entirely different from the school theme that Kanye uses on his trilogy, especially the first two albums. There's also skits that tie the LP together and help it flow, and they're made 10 times better by the inclusion of MC Paul Barman, a personal favorite rapper of mine. I haven't managed to get any of his albums on vinyl, so hopefully eventually I will so I can really explain why I love this guy so much. But basically, if you put on virtually any MC Paul Barman song or feature, you'll instantly understand what I'm talking about. It's definitely an acquired taste, but guys like Masta Ace and Prince Paul instantly recognized how genius MC Paul Barman is. And while his appearances on Disposable Arts are mostly limited to this roommate role for the sketches, you get an idea of his enigmatic personality right away. Another thing that's sort of hard to ignore if you're a younger fan listening to this album for the first time, you may have the thought, hey, this guy sounds like Eminem. But as I outlined with his extensive history in hip hop, obviously it's Eminem sounds like Masta Ace, not vice versa. Honestly, I don't think it's a massive deal. M has been open about his influence from Ace, and while it's easy to hear the similarity in their flows and deliveries, at this time in their careers especially, they check their own unique boxes for the most part and are legends in their own separate ways for completely different contributions. However, when you see how successful Kanye was with the school theme and Eminem was with this style, it does kind of speak to my point of him not necessarily given due credit for all the things he did first. The thing is, I don't want to act like Ace isn't an extremely well-known and respected MC and lyricist, because a pet peeve I have is when people take huge names in hip-hop who are insanely successful and say how underrated they are. To me, that's sort of just you saying, oh, nobody else knows you, none of my friends or family have heard of you, but I like you, I have. It's just sort of a backhanded compliment to me. I don't think Ace feels like he didn't get recognition for his skills. I think many people probably heard this album for the first time and were insanely impressed like I was, which is made possible not just by Ace, but by his collaborators as well, like the producers who did the stellar instrumentals on here. Outside of Ace himself, there's beats by Ayatollah, Deacon the Villain, DJ 3D, DJ Rob, Domingo, Kool-Aid, Paul Nice, and Explicit, and that's just a handful of them. There's also a pretty top tier feature list in the form of Jean Grey, Apocalypse, Punch and Words, Greg Nice, Tone Deaf, Young Z, Jane Doe, Raw Digga, Mr. Leegee, Sass, MC Paul Barman, Strick, Jugga the Bully, Sherry Abercrombie, Suede, various members of Masta Incorporated, as well as J. Rowe and King T from the Alcoholics. And I'm just going to stop there for the sake of time. While this LP is packed with dense bars, impressive flows, and a master delivery, one personal favorite moment I have to shout out is the song Acknowledge. This was actually a diss track to the underground rapper Boogeyman, as well as the hip hop duo The High and Mighty, who actually have a pretty dope debut album worth checking out. I believe this was sort of a misunderstanding where Def Jux rapper Cage dissed Master Ace at a High and Mighty show, I believe, and I think someone who was at the show relayed that message to Ace, but they got which white rapper it was who dissed him wrong. Regardless of the cause, this is still one of my favorite diss tracks in hip hop, and Ace is at the top of his game here when it comes to dope schemes and battle rhymes. For this killer return album, my three favorite songs would have to be Acknowledge, Alphabet Soup, and No Regrets, but I want to give a couple honorable mentions to Enough, Hold You, and Dear Diary. Thank you for watching my 29th video. Next up, I'm going to talk about easily the most famous, well-known album I've talked about in this group so far. So be sure to tune in to see which legendary album I'm talking about, as well as like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments off Master Ace's legendary comeback album are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.